Okay, guys, 10 minutes goes by crazy fast. So I'm probably going to have to break this up in two parts, maybe three. I promised you I would dive into the actual word like I told you. I got it open, ready to read it to you. But what I'm about to get into is quite heavy. So, again, want to make it. I don't know if you've seen my other videos previously. I did mention that I was doing this a couple times. When I talk about the law defeated by love, before I go into too much of that, I need you to understand that. I need you to understand I don't know what my hair is doing. I'm just messing, but I really don't. But I need you to understand that I'm not saying that the law is bad. I'm not saying that it's not purposeful and useful and there are great things in the law. The law talks about loving yourself. People don't always catch that. But when God said to love your neighbor as yourself, you first got to love yourself. Not to put yourself higher than your neighbor, by no means, but don't put yourself lower. We've gotten a misconception. So I'm not by any means, and I just needed to make that very clear real quick off the top, condemning, the law by any means. But to a degree, we need to understand that we were never called to point our fingers at people and say, well, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, you need to be doing this, you're not making that mark, you missed that. And then, no wonder everyone struggles with depression and anxiety and doesn't feel like they add up. Self-esteem is demolished. Suicide rates are livid. Like, it's starting to make sense. This is why this is so important. This is why this word is so important. And so I might be going into a theology that is not your belief system at all. And I want to talk to you still, because this word still applies to you, because there's still something to get from this. Because maybe you only don't believe in this because you never saw it this way before. So please just stick with me. I don't care if you believe in who you believe in, Buddha, Muhammad. I don't care who your source is, or you just believe in source, universe. I don't care what you call God, what you call it. I need to break this down for you, especially for those who call themselves Christians. And so I don't want to take up too much of your time with all of this. Let me get right into it. I'm going to go first and talk to you about discernment, because that's where it has to start. You see, when people were walking around like Pharisees, not everyone always had an eye. Not always understood what it meant to be a Pharisee. No one really understood that we took a reverence to some high leaderships and pastors. And please, by no means am I belittling or defiling or talking down about or speaking over authority. Like, hear my heart. But in the same token, they are human. They have sinned. They have messed up. They are wrong countless of times, and yet still right in so many ways, because wrong and right is never what this was ever about. And I'm going to get there. And that's what I need you to understand. But in the same token, where are you getting your information from? And are you following blindly? Are you going to church on Sunday and, oh, well, my pastor, he said this, so it must be true. And you didn't do your research? You didn't look in this word for yourself and read it. Like, if you have a Bible, please take it out with me and read this stuff. Or take your time elsewhere and do some research and whatever. Checkmate me. I want you to, by all means, for yourself. You don't need to come back on this channel and say, well, Lindsay, you were wrong. It actually is blah, 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 blah. I don't need that from you right now. I'm not doing this for me. I already know what I believe full-heartedly. I'm doing this for the person out there that doesn't understand that this word was never supposed to be about condemnation, but always about love. This was never supposed to be about judgment and sinfulness, but it was always supposed to be about love. This wasn't about the law and us trying to make the mark. We already made the mark. Jesus made sure of it. So, without further ado, man, I can't ever do this right. It's going to take me like 5 zillion clips, y'all, because 10 minutes is really not a lot of time to really dive into some heavy stuff here. But discernment is where it starts. Before anything, you need to understand this, that in 1 John 4:6, it says, we are of God. He that knoweth God heareth us. He that is not of God heareth not us. Hereby know we the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. What is that talking about? It's talking about understanding the truth and understanding what isn't. You know, when you have that moment where it just comes in your spirit and someone says something and you're just like, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't feel right. You ever had that moment when you were in a relationship and you just knew in your gut and you hated it? You hated it. But you knew in your gut, they're cheating. They're cheating on me. I don't have proof of it. I haven't seen a text message. I haven't seen them kiss on somebody. My gut is telling me they're cheating. That's discernment. That is a spirit of discernment. That is a level that understands the truth from its error. It's a level of discernment. There are greater levels, clearly, but I just wanted to give you an example. So let's get into it, right? The Pharisees' background. Who were the Pharisees? The Pharisees are the people that uphold the law. They were one of the few that actually was able to have this word. See, not everyone even had the word back in the day. They weren't privileged enough to know the word. So the fact that Jesus even knew the word and he didn't have access to it meant that he had access somewhere to it. He knew things that he shouldn't have known because he was the word. And it says that. And actually, it literally says, from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen in our eyes, we have looked upon our hands and have handled of the word of life. That which we have seen and heard declared, we unto you, he also has fellowship. It literally, in 1 John, I can't really break it down right now, but it actually talks and says he is the word. Okay, so the Pharisees, they are the people that are very prideful, very, very belittling, can be deceitful, can be manipulative, can definitely point at that speck in your eye when they have a whole lodge in theirs. They're them people that want to try to make you trip and fall at every turn. And that's exactly what they did to Jesus. They tried to catch Jesus. They tried to catch him, but they couldn't ever catch Jesus because Jesus, time and time again, would overcome that law with love. And we see that first off in 1 Peter. In 1 Peter 4:8, it actually says, above all, to love, because it covers a multitude of sins, y'all. So there's these Pharisees. They come in. They're trying to uphold the law that keeps you from being sinful. But there is no way to obtain that. They don't even attain it themselves. They are blinded. They are in denial. They are deceived themselves. But yet they are going to try to hold you. Do you know people like that? Do we know people like that? Let's not go there. But I'm just saying. So let's break down this word, shall we? So so covers a multitude of sins. So what is sin? What is sin really? Sin is a reference that broke the law, not just of their time, not just you broke a stoplight. You went through a stoplight, rather. You went through a stop sign. Nothing like that in nature. It's deeper. It's actually a spiritual event that happens. You have defiled yourself. You have defiled somebody in the body. You are breaking something spiritually. Most of all, you've defiled your faith. But to break it down even more, I'll give you the actual definition. It says an immoral act, considered to be a transgression against divine law. Divine law, again, that is that spiritual event that is taking place. So you're breaking your faith. You're breaking that source. You're going against what you believe. Let's break it down even more because it says a transgression. So what's a transgression then? A transgression is an act that goes against a law, rule, conduct, an offense. An offense. So we've talked about in our previous videos, and I want to mention this again. Every time that you hear the word God, I want you to think the word love. Every single time that you think about God, I want you to think about the word love. So it would make sense that if sin is an offense against somebody, it's the idea of offending. Offending would, in fact, be the opposite of what love is, would it not? They clash, don't they? Don't they clash? And so that's what we're getting into. That's exactly what we're going to get into. I've already gone over my 10 minutes and that little bit of time, and I'm not even anywhere near. I didn't even barely hit the surface, y'all. Maybe I'll go 15. Can you handle 15? Let's try it. Let's keep going for just a little bit longer. So this is where we try not to be a sinner. We try to hit the marks. We try to, all these things. I don't want to be sinful, so let me not drink anymore. Let me not get tattoos because it's of the Old Testament says not to. I don't know about that. We'll talk about that later. Let me not be sexual outside of marriage. Definitely, let's not lie, cheat, murder, etc. Right? Some of those things are true. Let's not, because it's not very loving, is it? But some of those things I'm going to show you through this journey that that's actually not the case. But even more so, you feel like you have to hold something that you were never called to hold, because the word in Romans 3:10-11 says that not a single one of you are righteous, can be righteous. There's not a single one that seeks after, as we said, not God, but love. So we don't seek love to become it. So because we don't become it, we'll never obtain it. But righteousness, as you'll learn from Abraham in the book, his story, we'll get into it all. His righteousness didn't come by what he did. It's merely by his faith in what someone else did. And that's where it goes in further to say that Christ already did it. In Ephesians 2:9, he did it so that we wouldn't have to. Not only would we not have to, but we would have nothing to boast about. So these Pharisees that are boasting and prideful, and they're supposedly hitting the mark, but they're really not. They have a hardened heart and they're in denial. They're in a dark place and they don't know it, and they're leading people astray. That's what happens. We go into this place of, I will not sin, I won't do this, I won't do that, I'll obey God, in a law mentality that is flawed. Because Christ only asks for two things. He often says, sin no more. But again, love covers every sin. We need to understand, especially if you're a Christian, Christ already did it. You are already forgiven. This book is a book not of condemnation, but a book of love. Again, I'll say it. Because in John 10:10, Christ says that he came that we would have a life of abundance. And again, I want to say that in Ephesians 2:9, it's talking about grace. And grace is a principle we all need, whether you're a Christian or not. But it's a principle that only Christianity, for some reason, holds. And not enough Christians use it. It's a principle that your very soul needs. Because your very soul yearns for love, yearns for that self-love, yearns to let yourself off the hook. It's too heavy. You can't hold it. Stop trying. The real jewel is when you learn to surrender. And that's how it starts. And that's how it starts. So we go into this mentality because we can't reach it, because we don't have grace for ourselves. We have a mind that gets very often dark. And we start to believe The darkness, the sinful way, is wrong, and so we must be unlovable. And I'm going to go into that. Stay tuned in part 2. I've taken up enough of y'all time, y'all. If you guys appreciate this kind of content, please go ahead and give me that thumbs up. I really haven't had a chance to truly dive in because I'm learning that 10 minutes, 15 minutes isn't enough. No wonder people preach for a half an hour, an hour. I get it. There's a lot to dive into. But what I want you to know and understand is that as we dive in through this, you are going to start to see that wearing a fake mask of righteousness or wearing a mask of unworthiness, both are not going to get you to where you want to be. They're just not. And I want to help you with that. And I want to help you show you that that was never the call for any of us. We have this beautiful gift inside of us. You have a beautiful gift inside of you. You are enough. You are more than enough. And everything you have, or rather everything you need, you already have. It's all inside of you. There is a call to an abundance. There is this call to this mindset. And it starts with getting the basics to you. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to break this down as best as I can to let you guys know that many of us have lived in this mentality of wrong and right. But they're just lessons, y'all, that help you to continue to become your best self. Stop beating yourself up. You deserve grace. Christ died that you might live more abundantly, but even more so, he took it on so that you wouldn't have anything to boast about, and neither does your brother, and neither does your sister. They have nothing over you. May we start to love each other as we love our neighbor. May we start to love ourselves, rather, as we love our neighbor, and that requires us to truly love ourselves. And I hope that as I start to break down these messages, you'll start to see in the word itself that he loves you. He loves you so much. He loves you because he is love. And guess what? Because he is love and you are in the image of him, you have that love. You have it. You already have it. And so I hope we'll continue this journey because I didn't even get to really scratch the surface. We'll get into part 2 next time. I'm sorry I went over. I know I said 10. If you're still with me, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell me of a time that you really felt yourself beating yourself up. I want you to tell me of a time that you were struggling. Can you be bold with me? Can you tell me of a time? Go ahead. Feel free to comment in the box. No. You know what? Even better. Let's take it back. If you're here and you've made it to this far, say this with me. I have a grace inside of me that is abounding. Put that down below. I have a grace inside of me that is abounding. Abounding. Plentiful. Whatever words you want to use, I would definitely affirm yourself. Do an affirmation down below about grace. Because I think that's the lesson today. Give yourself some grace. You're more than enough. Till next time, part 2's coming. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to really do this. This goes into deep stuff as far as how darkness isn't the darkness that we always thought it was. It's actually a opposite of light. But spiritually speaking, it's an opposite. And we'll find this out of love. Because love will always conquer all. Till next time, guys. God bless.